As Macondo began its slow descent into decay, the Buendía family found itself increasingly entangled in the web of its own history. Each generation seemed destined to repeat the mistakes and tragedies of the one before, as if an invisible force guided their actions. The dreams, passions, and conflicts that once defined the family's rise now became the markers of its inevitable fall. The weight of the past bore down on them. Each new member of the family born into a story they could not escape. Among the Buendía family members most deeply affected by the changes in Macondo were José Arcadio II and Aureliano II, the twin brothers who had once embodied the family's duality. José Arcadio II, still haunted by the massacre of the banana workers, withdrew into himself, spending his days in the solitude of the Buendía home. He became obsessed with preserving the memory of what had happened. Aureliano II, by contrast, clung to the remnants of Macondo's prosperity. Despite the town's decline, he continued to host lavish parties and indulge in excess, as if refusing to acknowledge the collapse around him. The twins, once so inseparable that even their mother could barely tell them apart, now seemed like strangers to one another. Their paths reflected the broader fractures within the Buendía family. As the older members of the family grappled with the weight of their past, the younger generation faced their own challenges. Fernanda del Carpio, the wife of Aureliano II, brought a new level of rigidity to the Buendía household. Fernanda clung to outdated notions of propriety and control, imposing her will on the chaotic Buendía legacy. She turned the once vibrant house into a somber place, its windows shuttered and its doors closed to the outside world. Fernanda's children bore the brunt of her sternness. Renata Remedios, known as Meme, initially rebelled against her mother's oppressive rules, seeking freedom in music and love. Her affair with Mauricio Babilonia, a humble mechanic constantly followed by a swarm of yellow butterflies, became one of the most poignant love stories in the Buendía saga. Their passion was intense but doomed. Fernanda's disapproval brought their relationship to a tragic end. Mauricio was shot and paralyzed, and Meme was sent away to a convent, her voice silenced and her spirit broken. Meme's story mirrored those of her ancestors, loves that burned brightly only to be extinguished by the forces of fate and family. Her departure left a void in the Buendía household. As the family spiraled deeper into despair, Ursula Iguaran, the aging matriarch, remained a steadfast presence. Though her body grew frail and her vision dim, her mind remained sharp. From her rocking chair, she observed the patterns that defined the Buendía legacy, seeing with clarity the cycles of repetition that bound them. "They're all the same," she would mutter to herself. Ursula's understanding of her family's fate was rooted in her deep connection to the past. She saw the echoes of José Arcadio Buendía's ambition in Aureliano II's excess, the shadow of Amarana's bitterness in Meme's isolation. She recognized the inevitability of these patterns, yet she remained powerless to change them. Her presence became a symbol of endurance, a reminder that even in the face of despair, life continued. One of the most haunting aspects of the Buendía family's legacy was the presence of Melquiades's manuscripts, the cryptic texts that had been left behind by the wandering gypsy years earlier. The manuscripts, written in a language no one could understand, became an obsession for the family's final generations. They were said to contain the history of the Buendías, past, present, and future. As Macondo deteriorated into a ghost of its former self, the Buendía family's younger members seemed increasingly detached from the world around them. José Arcadio, the grandson of Aureliano II, returned to the family home after years of absence. He was arrogant and hedonistic, squandering the last remnants of the family fortune on frivolities and indulgence. His return brought no salvation to the Buendías. Instead, it hastened their decline. His death, At the hands of the impoverished townsfolk he had alienated, marked the end of his lineage. The final Aureliano, the great-great-grandson of the family's founder, embodied the solitude that had plagued the Buendias for generations. Born in secrecy and raised in obscurity, he grew up surrounded by the echoes of his ancestors' stories. He became consumed by the task of deciphering Melquiades's manuscripts, believing that their secrets held the key to understanding his family's fate. Aureliano's work on the manuscripts became a metaphor for the family's broader struggles with memory and history. As he unraveled the cryptic texts, he discovered that they contained not only the story of the Buendias, but also the prophecy of their end. The manuscripts revealed that the family's fate had been predetermined, that their cycles of love, loss, and loneliness were written long before they were born. As Aureliano deciphered the final lines of the manuscripts, the once thriving town of Macondo was swallowed by a cataclysmic windstorm. The storm tore through the village, erasing its existence as if it had never been. The Buendia house, once the center of life and activity, was reduced to ruins, its walls crumbling under the weight of history. In his final moments, Aureliano realized the full weight of the prophecy. The Buendia family was not simply cursed but destined to disappear, their lives a fleeting chapter in the larger story of the world. The manuscripts, written long before the family's founding, foretold their rise and fall with chilling accuracy. As he read the last words, the storm consumed him, completing the prophecy and bringing an end to the Buendia lineage. This chapter of 100 Years of Solitude explores the cyclical nature of history, the ways in which individuals and families are bound by the patterns of the past. The Buendia's struggles with love, ambition, and identity reflect the broader human condition, the desire to break free from fate, the pain of failure, and the inevitability of loss. The presence of Melquiades's manuscripts underscores the tension between free will and predestination, suggesting that while individuals may strive for change, they are often trapped by forces beyond their control.